Hey everybody, welcome to the J. Harvey Ministry Show. Today we are going to be talking with Rob Spalding again, director of the Christian Center. And today's topic is the kind of people that we are helping, and Rob is helping here at the Christian Center. And then part of what I do for Life Without Limbs, and Nick Vujicic, as you can see some pictures behind me here. Maybe you can see that when I brought it up today. Part of what I do on the road when I go out and do prison ministry for Nick is we go to places and we show some videos of Nick giving his testimony, giving some talks, and then I come in and we do some curriculum teaching, and we really just kind of hang out with the guys that are incarcerated. Now, a lot of the guys that end up here at the Christian Center have also done a stint perhaps in jail or a county jail or maybe even a prison, and they find themselves here. And so there are programs here, and there's things that Rob and others do for them to try to get them back on their feet and heading in the right direction. Right? And then I come in
and by stint, do you mean timeout?
Timeout. The little stint that they did was timeout. And I always think of, you know, what others say about those who are incarcerated. It's like, well, you know, that's where they belong. But then when they get out, it's like, where do they belong? And you got to have somebody to just kind of help them along. But anyway, I want to give you a couple of chances here on J. Harvey Ministry Show, which is streaming on the Rowdy Radio Network. You need to make that a part of your life as an alternative to what's going on in the city that you're in the community that you're in, and just in life in general, because we have the truth here about all things. Next week, I'm going to be in West Palm Beach, Ocala, Florida, Orlando, doing some work in a federal prison where there are 7,000 inmates, and also be training some chaplains to go in with the curriculum that I've written. And I want to share a testimony, because we're going to actually take this segment and we're going to put it on the Life Without Limbs website as well for Nick to use as a fundraising tool. But one of the things I'll share a story, Rob, then maybe you can share a story.
Okay.
But I went to a prison not too long ago in Illinois, and we were sitting with a group of guys, about 50 guys, and one of them had been incarcerated since about 1975. And he'd been moved around. And there was a chance when he said to me, as we were just kind of talking after our time together and teaching and Q&A and roundtable, he said, you know, it's becoming pretty clear that I may not get out of here until I die. He's got about another 15 years, and he was, you know, going on 62 or 3 at the time. So he says, what you did today was simply come and bring me some hope that no matter if I get out or not, and I feel lonely and I feel like maybe God has given up on me, that no, he's actually still with me. And if this is the place that I see my demise, that's just the way it is. It has no bearing on anything else. It doesn't mean that I've done, you know,
God didn't abandon this guy.
Yeah, he didn't abandon this guy. And he said, you've given me hope again. And I think what I'm trying to say is they need hope more than anything. They may know Christ. They may have said they're sorry for what they've done. But that doesn't mean we forget about them. They still need to hear a message of hope, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me, like, that was one guy that just kind of like blew me away with his attitude and perspective. Once we were done, he was like, you know, man, I have all the hope in the world again.
That's awesome.
So tell me a story.
Well, actually, I'm not sure I've got a specific story other than to say that it's very typical for us, for someone to come out of the Department of Corrections and land at our doorstep within hour or so of coming out of the Department of Corrections. And for many, it is the most difficult time for them, because suddenly they're entering back into a world that has changed, maybe in some cases dramatically. Their personal lives have changed. The world itself has changed. And so they're re-entering a world that's different. And their great fear is they will return to the same behavior, the same friends, and the same patterns that got them in jail in the first place. Right. So landing at a place like the Christian Center, where they will get they'll receive job training and spiritual development, and those things. They're developing hope and a new attitude towards a future. A future that seems really, really uncertain the day they get out.
Exactly.
What they need is direction and focus.
And I don't know if you find this or not, but I find that most of these guys and gals, for that matter, if they're coming out of the Department of Corrections, they have a good sense of humor.
Oh man,
they have a wonderful sense of humor. Just today, I was with a group of guys that some of them had been in prison for quite some time, and they were attending this Bible study that I was a part of, and one of them actually turned to the other and said, "Man, you were down so long, you came out looking for phone booths." Because he had no idea that there were no more phone booths out there. And that's one thing the public forgets is like one of the things you do is you teach guys how to use a smartphone, because a lot of them don't know.
Absolutely.
That this is the way the world operates. And if they need to text a potential employer or follow up on a calendar on an interview, that a lot of them, they use smartphones.
Right. And it's also just navigating, putting, have you been convicted of a felony on a resume or on an application, and what that means, and how we, how to contextualize that as well. A lot of challenges.
And once they get a little bit comfortable, they do learn how to show compassion on those who are uncomfortable around them. I just think that we the more I see, the more I'm humbled by how much they go, the lengths that they go to make sure that I'm comfortable when I'm around them, and they're always thinking. And so for years I used to hear, well, that's just jailhouse religion. Everybody wants Jesus once they're in jail. And I said, well, what's wrong with that? I mean, biblically, Matthew was a tax collector. He was pretty much shunned by his entire people. And had no hope for getting back into the community, really, because once you're a tax collector for the Romans, you are the black sheep forever. Well, Christ saved him and said, "Follow me." I mean, it doesn't matter where you're at. So,
one thing that's amazing, I think, is that for ministries, people who do prison ministry, first of all, it's a very high calling, and I think a challenge for most of us. But one of the things to remember in that type of ministry is you're planting seeds.
Oh yeah.
That later on may come to fruition, because they hear the same things when they come into a center like what the Christian Center is, or to organizations that are faith-based. What they're hearing is they're hearing those themes reinforced.
Yeah, exactly. Great point.
And I think that's really important, because those seeds planted then, maybe 15 years before a guy gets out, would bear fruit.
Yeah.
Later on, or make them open to hearing the word again.
Yes.
Later on.
Yeah, and a lot of them are hesitant to just jump right back into a church, jump right back into a community, because they're either afraid or whatever. But I always encourage the guys, when we do prison ministry for Life Without Limbs, I try everything in my power to speak their language while I'm there, to never assume anything, and I don't go in with a message of hey, I know what it feels like to be lonely, because I was at my second house in West Palm Beach, and my family's flight got delayed and they couldn't be with me, and so I was sitting there for a day alone. I can really relate to you. I mean, they look at you like, come on,
first world problems.
Yeah, first world problems, and I just oftentimes the church speaks a language that is true, but doesn't really connect. I mean, I can't imagine Brian Houston, the guy from Hillsong, standing up to a bunch of prisoners going, "Do you know your purpose? Well, my purpose is to get through lunch, and then to make count, and then to not get in trouble, and no, he has a bigger purpose for your life. What is your purpose?" Well, it's to wake up again tomorrow and do the same thing. What they need is hope.
Yes.
And when there's places like this that Rob provide in the Christian Center, and they're everywhere, not maybe as robust as the Christian Center here in Anderson, Indiana, but there are ministries in every town that do have people that are focused on providing that hope and seeing their neighbor. And I don't know about you, but since this has become part of my ministry, it's been the most fulfilling, because it is a chance to learn, engage, and see transformation right before your eyes.
Yeah. I think one thing is important is that the one thing is they don't know what to expect when they come out, and then to watch the little victories add up and what they mean.
Yeah.
I was meeting with a guy just a week ago who had He'd spent some time in prison. It was drug related. He is, it's a past that he's trying his hardest to forget and to move past. But with a felony conviction, things like that, there are some issues with getting jobs. He lands a job at McDonald's. He is moving through their hierarchy, and is as thrilled as as somebody could be to make those steps. And you would think that somebody, approaching middle age, working at McDonald's would be
right.
Maybe not the plan they had when they were 18, but to see them excited and to know they're making progress forward in their lives, I think is just huge.
Yeah, it's all about perspective, and,
Yep.
and what the outside world thinks of that and looks at that and judges that is really not anybody's concern.
Right.
One of my favorite proverbs that I hold true is, Lord, keep lies and falsehood far from me. Give me neither riches nor poverty, but only my daily bread. And it goes on to say, because if I have too much, I might forget about my need for you. And if I have too little, then I might end up, stealing and dishonoring your name. And it's just a mindset to say, Lord, I want to be where you want me to be. And when I'm in that, I'll have joy. So this guy at McDonald's who's moving up, sees that God is saying, this is your path, this is your peace, this is your wholeness, this is your hope, and be joyous in that, and I'll guide you every step of the way. More people need to encourage that.
Absolutely.
Without trying to change something that's already happening that's good.
Yeah.
And that's what I know that you guys do here is you celebrate those little victories very well.
And to prepare them, give them the tools they need to be successful, and to prepare them for that life beyond here, because our job isn't to bring them in and keep them. Our job is to move them forward and develop their faith and develop their skills and develop their confidence and really develop their hope.
Yeah, hope.
In terms of what life outside of this looks like, and what a life of clean living and things like that are just going to be so much different. God intends so much more for them.
Oh yeah, and the hope issue is something that when I wrote the curriculum for Life Without Limbs, it's entitled From Hopelessness to Hope. And really all that means is we can deal with anger as a Christian and feel like we have no hope of overcoming that. Well, you can journey from hopelessness to hope in anger. You can journey from hopelessness to hope in your relationships and forgiveness and all that, because hope is the thing that is promising you a tangible alternative piece to your life, no matter what's going on in the midst of your life. And that's the part I think sometimes the church misses is they want to teach them the scripture and they want to teach them the moral things, but see, that's not going to help if there's no hope. And they need to understand that the tangible hope that's offered in Christ is different than the cross your fingers hope. That is, I hope I get out. I hope I fail, or I hope I pass this drug test. I hope that my wife still is there when I get it. I mean,
I just bought this lottery ticket.
Yeah, I just bought this lottery ticket, and I know that God's going to have me win because I already said I would give half of it, or maybe half of it, or it depends on how big it is. I don't play it until it gets at least above 300 million, but
because why bother?
Because why bother, really? I mean, after taxes and everything.
Yeah,
I mean, I probably still have to keep working, but it is. I think what we're saying is that hope is something that is misunderstood, and hope is something that needs to be cherished and embraced in the Christian faith, and I see a lot of these guys and gals that don't have anything else really gravitating towards the hope of Christ, and that's a great thing. I want everybody else to celebrate that with them instead of saying, well, now you need to get into a church so that we can, normalize you to society. Well, a lot of times what happens is that kills their hope, because what's enforced in that situation is, and it's not on purpose, but what's enforced is you got to become more like us,
right? And
that's not the deal. That's not the drill. I mean, it's just not. It's not the way God rolls.
Well, and I think once the inward behavior and the internal heart change happens, the external begins to take care of itself, and it's never going to look like the church pianist
Yeah, right,
you know,
right.
but it's going to look very different, and it's going to look God inspired, and it is actually, for many of us, we think those and believe those to be much more powerful testimonies than someone who has always grown up in the church and there's a 5th generation pastor, and nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But when you see God take a life that has been broken and diminished, and this person has been marginalized by society, and then God turned that around. It is so powerful.
Right, and that's something that then when they really get, and you know this, Rob, they know nobody can ever take that away from them. And I think that's really the goal is to be Christ, to be salt and light for all these people that are looking for a little bit of hope until they really understand, I've got that hope. Christ is in me, and nobody can ever take that away from me. We still need mentors, and we need people and then they need to turn around and help others who are behind them, and that's a beautiful thing as well. But one of the things that my boss at Life Without Limbs always says, Nick, he says, when you can't get a miracle for yourself, you got to be a miracle for someone else. And I think that with your broken pieces, you have to just be so secure in that hope of Christ that you can encourage somebody. So today, just know that if there's a couple knuckleheads like Rob and I that are out here just kind of winging it and being in people's lives and helping others as much as we can without messing it up, be an encouragement today. Mother Teresa said something that I'll never forget. Actually, I read it. I didn't talk to her, but I read
recently.
It. Not recently, for sure. But she said, a smile can change somebody else's day. And that's so true. Sometimes it's hard to just see somebody smile at somebody, like a cashier or somebody who's working or just walking down the street. It's for some reason, it's not normal. And so if you're out there today and you don't know where to start, smile at somebody and hope that you don't have anything between your teeth. All right. Thanks for joining me on the JRV Ministries show. We'll talk. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We'll talk to you again soon. Peace.